The prairie had a way of making a man feel small, especially at dusk. When the sun sank low and the land stretched endlessly in every direction, silent and watchful, Elijah Boone stood outside his barn with his hat pulled low, eyes narrowed against the fading light. The wind rolled across the dry grass, carrying dust and the faint scent of animals long gone. This land had taken much from him, his wife, his son, even the sound of laughter, but it had also taught him how to endure. For 10 years he had lived alone on this stretch of earth, fixing fences, tending a few cattle, speaking more to the sky than to any human soul. People said solitude made men cruel. Elijah knew it simply made them honest. That evening felt no different from the hundreds before it until something broke the rhythm of the plains. A sound, soft, uneven, footsteps where there should have been none. His hand drifted toward his rifle, not out of fear but habit. Out here, hesitation could kill. But when the figure finally emerged from the tall grass, Elijah froze. It wasn't a bandit or a soldier. It was a man barely standing, swaying as though the wind itself might knock him down. The stranger's clothes were torn and sun-bleached, hanging loosely on a frame reduced to bone and sinew. His skin was cracked, his eyes hollow, his lips pale with thirst. Elijah recognized him instantly, not as an individual but as a symbol, a native. One of the people pushed farther away each year, spoken of as threats or ghosts. The man took 2 more steps before his knees buckled, and he collapsed into the dirt just outside the barn door. No weapon, no threat, just hunger in its purest, most brutal form. Elijah stood there longer than he cared to admit, weighing fear against conscience. Helping him could bring soldiers' fire, punishment. Ignoring him would bring something worse, another quiet death on land already soaked with them. Elijah knelt, slowly. He unscrewed his canteen and held it to the man's lips. After a moment's hesitation, the stranger drank, not greedily, but as if each swallow was sacred. Elijah helped him sit, then fetched bread, beans, and dried meat meant to last the winter. The man stared at the food, eyes shining, then pressed his hand to his chest in silent thanks. As darkness fell, Elijah guided the stranger into the barn, laying a blanket over fresh hay. Coyotes howled outside as the man slept, chest rising and falling in fragile rhythm. Elijah didn't sleep much that night. Old memories clawed at him, his son's fevered breathing, the helplessness of watching life fade. By dawn, the barn was quiet. Too quiet. The man was gone. The blanket folded. No tracks, no sign of struggle. It was as if the prairie itself had reclaimed him. Elijah told himself it was over. Just another strange night swallowed by the plains. 3 days passed. The silence returned heavier than before. On the 4th morning, the cattle grew restless. Birds lifted suddenly from the grass. Then Elijah felt it. A distant vibration under his boots. Horses. Many horses. He climbed the small rise near his barn and felt his breath leave him. Across the field stood rows upon rows of mounted native warriors, stretching to the horizon, perfectly aligned, silent as stone. Dust curled around their horses' hooves. Feathered headdresses caught the sunlight. Painted faces stared forward with calm intensity. Elijah tried to count them and stopped. There were too many. At the front sat a familiar figure, strong now, upright, alive, the starving man. He raised his hand and 200 warriors halted as one. Elijah did not reach for his rifle. He did not run. He stood alone, knowing the moment had come. The man dismounted and approached, placing his hand to his chest. "My name is Red Hawk," he said in steady English. "When I came to you, I was already dead." He gestured behind him. "These are my people. They came because of what you did." Elijah listened as Red Hawk spoke of burned villages, stolen food, poisoned wells. He explained how Elijah's kindness had saved more than one life. It had restored hope. Word had spread, and with it a warning. Soldiers planned to make an example of the rancher who fed an enemy. The warriors did not come for revenge. They came for protection. They camped nearby for days, never on Elijah's land without permission. They hunted, repaired fences, shared food and stories by firelight. For the first time in years, Elijah was not alone. He learned their songs. They learned his grief. The land felt alive again. When the soldiers arrived expecting fear, they found unity. Elijah stood beside Red Hawk, 2 worlds meeting without weapons. Faced with calm strength and overwhelming presence, the soldiers turned away. No shots were fired. No blood spilled. The prairie watched and remembered. In time, the warriors rode west. Red Hawk clasped Elijah's forearm. "Kindness is a trail," he said. "Others will find it." Elijah watched them disappear into the horizon, knowing his life and the land had been changed forever. Years later, when travelers asked about the story, Elijah would only say, "A man was hungry. I fed him, and that was enough." If this story moved you, stories like this remind us that one small act of kindness can change history. If you want more powerful emotional stories like this, subscribe to the channel, like the video, and share it, because the next story might stay with you long after it ends.